Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our exclusive Global Leading Voices webinar campaign. We are delighted to have you join us here today. Please be informed that if you have any questions during the presentation, you may type them into the question box in your control panel. The presenter will answer your questions at the end of the presentation accordingly. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to our presenter, who will begin shortly.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining for today's webinar. I am going to introduce the approach of integrated management systems, and in the end of the presentation, we are trying to find out how this integrated management system may help comply with new cyber laws and regulations. So we are starting with integration and ending up with practical tips how the big regulations may be fulfilled. So my name is Andro Kull. I'm actually from Estonia, but last years more and more I am acting internationally in cooperation with PCB. So this is another approach we are reaching here, is that how to proceed in cooperation with PCB as certification body. So I have more than 20 years experience in IT and information security related fields. So I started as IT specialist, then reached IT manager. A few years I worked as IT risk manager. I have some around 8 years experiences of IT auditing in financial sector. So, and the last 4 years I've been part of team in Estonian biggest technical university, and then we're preparing some master studies for cybersecurity. And my part here is to add all these management related things into the technical arena. So, and then the other sectors, I've worked for financial sector, but also in energy sector, some critical service providers. I have been many years in public sector, so all the regulations and laws are quite familiar also. But if you're good, we are proceeding with the presentation. Don't be worried. It's quite long, but we are going through the presentation quite quickly. And after that, we have time for the questions also. So some key points we want to go through is first to establish the concept of integrated management systems. So the idea here is that the concept is leading, and we are only possible to use ISO related management systems to actually fill this concept. So we are starting here that what has to be done or should be done inside the organization, and then only showing that maybe ISO-based management system may help to get the necessary results. So definitely one really important part in this concept is different roles which are associated. So quite soon we are reaching all these management board, CEO has to do something, CEO, Chief Information Officer, Chief IT managers, security managers, risk managers, internal audit, external audit. So there are different roles are associated into this integrated management system. So we are trying to clarify this in more detail. Definitely the international standards are appropriate to use. So I'm trying to explain two sides of integration. One is the integration of different management systems. And another approach is that if you are going to implement real management system, for example, information security based on ISO 27001, you can find appropriate ISO best practices like 002, which is information security controls, really appropriate maybe 27005, which deals with risk management. Then we can even proceed that one good information security management system needs also good incident management. So we are able to integrate ISO 27035 as information security incident management. In many cases today, the information system itself are relying on cyberspace. Then we are able to put this ISO 27032 cybersecurity management system. So this is another way of integrations. So not only integrating management system, but inside the management system, integrating best practices also. This is one key point for this concept we are going through. And last but definitely not least, we are going through some quite common field regulations about information security, cybersecurity, starting from European Union, going to the United States, then looking back to Asia. So just to explain that the same principles are put into field regulations also. And if we are going through this presentation, then we have time to answer the questions also. So let's create the concept. Then is only one approach. This is not taken from certain standard, but this is more like based on my own experiences, mostly in connection with the financial sector. But I think this is really good possibility to use for other business sectors also, because this is pretty much the common sense how to deal with information cybersecurity so that there are no big losses and the organizations can survive even the cyber attacks or other information security incidents. So let's go through the concept step by step. So my approach is more like building a house, starting with what is the roof, what is the bottom, what are the walls, and then what kind of materials we are able to use to actually build this concept and get reasonable results. So definitely the starting point here is to start with security requirements or security expectations. This is the first block here. So there may be some obligations by the law, by the regulation, for example, by data protection, also business continuity requirements, really applicable to the critical infrastructure providers, for example. Then it goes to the internal codes. So somebody definitely has an interest that information security, cybersecurity is there, no big losses, no big incidents. It may be set up by the owners of the company. There may be some security related expectations from client side, from partner side, from regulator side. So definitely this is good starting point that let's try to understand what is obligatory to do in this field and what are the real expectations from stakeholders. So if this is pretty much clear, we are assuming that definitely we have to do something, and then it goes to the bottom level. So the next one is that based on those obligations and expectations, we have to do something. So take some actions regarding the IT, risk, information, cybersecurity, business continuity. So this is pretty much how to actually comply with the requirements or expectations. And now is the main content of this concept is that let's try to make some systematic approach, not do some one-time actions based on the requirements or one-time incidents, but let's try to build a system. So then it's possible to start with the profiles. So on the left side, you see that profiles showed up, and we are pretty much able to describe for each organization or company what is the company's main business. So let's agree that green marks as how the things are happening right now. So definitely there are business processes are there. So main business processes like production, sales, financing, and other are appropriate here. So every kind of organization has to deal with the main business side. So we can call it as a mission of the organization. And if the business is running well, we have to consider that the next one, we have to deal with data handling. So in our case, this data is valuable for the organization. So clearly possible to see the main security goals here, like confidentiality, integrity, availability. If you are running the business, you want to be sure that, for example, business secrecy as valuable information or data is handled securely. If you are taking that you have the customer relationship process inside your business, which is quite common, you have to take care of securing the personal data, because this is the concern of clients, but this is the concern of regulators also. So, and if the data handling is clear, then we are reaching that we are using some IT systems to actually handle the data. We need those systems to handle the data and keep the business processes up and running. So one profile goes to the IT side, what kind of systems we are using, where they are located, what kind of administrative stuff do we have, those systems. It may be organized also so that IT is outsourced or put it into cloud, but still we have to take care of security. So, and so far we are able to reach that inside the data handling, we have to understand what is the information or data value, and inside the IT, we have to understand what are the possible vulnerabilities in our IT, so that something happens with this data. If the confidentiality, integrity, or availability will be broken. So inside the data handling, there is the data value. Inside the IT, there may be vulnerabilities, and possible risks may start from there. So the next building block, in most cases, is that we are not only building the IT system, but we are also taking care that IT system is updated, up and running. We are doing all this monitoring, other things, and let's call it as IT governance. So this normal way of dealing with IT, so that IT is actually working. So the next profile, which is quite common in many organizations, at least in bigger organizations, is that we have some risk management. Let's put in our case this IT risk management, because we are more talking about information security. So IT risks, have to be or should be handled carefully. And if the risk is open and the risk is big, so we have to deal some risk management issues. And for the IT risk side, this is also true that if you are running any kind of business and collecting any kind of data, you should consider that risks are automatic. So there is no possibility that you are choosing that if the risks are there or not. So this is 100% sure that risks are there, and you only have to deal with those risks. So IT risks are automatically there. Then we have to think about the appropriate controls. And those controls are actually possibilities to mitigate the risk into the acceptable level. So this is what happens in many organizations also. Sometimes it's made in more advanced way if the business requirement is so. For example, in financial sector, there is no possibility to run the internet bank if you don't have some necessary security controls in place. Starting with the access control, how to get access to the bank account data, then it goes to you want to transact the money, and then the controls have to be there to be sure that security is ensured. So definitely not only we understand the risk, but also implement necessary controls. Quite common. In some cases, the baseline security may be appropriate already. If the business side doesn't handle so sensitive or critical data, baseline security may be appropriate as for IT controls. So another profile is set up here. So let's take the next one, is the IT compliance issues. So this is, I try to mention all the time, if possible, that compliance is a consequence, security is a goal, reason why to do it. But if it's done correctly, your profiles are built up well, managed well, then the compliance is more like goes automatically. But in many cases, the compliance issues are important, especially for regulated businesses. So the business is not absolutely free to set up the profiles, but it has to be compliant with the same obligations or requirements for information security. So let's take the next one. Even all the profiles already mentioned here are working really well, still we have to be ready for possible incidents. And this IT incident or information security incident management has to be established before the real incidents are happening. Because if the real incidents are already there, there is no time to deal with establishing incident management, so the necessary roles, reporting schemes, and actions to eliminate the root causes of the incidents and deal with normal processes again has to be there. So the main idea for setting up the IT incidents is to be prepared for the incidents, because this is only a matter of time when the incidents are happening. There is no questions anymore if the incidents are possible, only when. So let's prepare the IT incident management also. And the next one, we are putting as the main building block is the continuity issues. So definitely, even if you are able to deal with risk management, controls implementation, compliance is there, we are solving the incidents, still there may be obligations or expectations about the continuity. continuity of IT systems, and based on that, continuity of business processes. So if there is still issues you are not able to keep under control, then the backup plans or continuity plans may be appropriate. You're able to run the business in different locations, use some backup systems to get business processes back. So this is another integration which is quite obvious to add into the main profiles. So those are the basic things every organization has to take care, and only then we are able to build the house or concept further. So the next one from practical side may be what kind of methods, metrics, tools we are using between the business and data handling. Then it goes what is between the data handling and IT. So this is actually makes this integration stronger. Without those methods, metrics, reporting schemes, communication, the separate management systems are not integrated. So let's see what is the glue between business and business management and data handling. So it may be, for example, good security practices. That let's start from data classification. So let's make agreement inside our organization what is more critical data, what is time critical data, what is sensible data. For example, business secrecy is confidential information, and if this is agreed, everybody are able to understand that this business secrecy has to be protected at higher level. And if the classification is there, we are using some labeling, then it's possible to use this method for proper data handling. So the business says what is requirement, and then it goes to the data handling. Based on the classification labeling, all is set up. Then the next integration here from data handling to the IT. So maybe, for example, business impact analysis is good approach or methodology, which helps to explain to the IT what is the protection requirement from business side. So BIA service level agreement is another example here. So quite common approach that business side and IT side are making service level agreement, so that the business side is getting some confidence that systems are up and running, data is handled securely. So next one, between the IT and IT governance, so we can rely some IT approaches, which may be common term and widely used, is the IT infrastructure library. So somehow you have to control and make the governance over the IT solutions. So for example, IT service management may be appropriate. For example, change management may be appropriate. For example, how you are actually developing your IT systems. All this may be appropriate here. And more common business terms here is the CMM, for example, which is the capability maturity model, which shows how mature IT governance actually is. We can rely on TCO, total cost of ownership, another business approaches, ROI, return on investment to the IT. So as you see right now, so from the left side, we are more talking about the business terms. And those business terms are related once again to the more technical side. So next, between the IT governance, IT risk. So let's try to keep on that way that IT governance and IT risk management are tightly connected, because they are by their nature have to be connected. So a good approach may be to use here, for example, monitoring. If we are using some dedicated monitoring solutions, we are able to see if the risks are rising in using these IT solutions. And then inside the monitoring system, we can consider some key risk indicators, KRI. Really interesting thing here between the IT and risk side is the SPOF, single point of failure. So let's try to take with your IT guys the IT infrastructure picture and find out what are the single point of failures. And then you may reach the results like all your IT system is only dependent on one network device, for example. Then it's good approach that let's find out some backup for this device. And in practical life, so it may be a good approach. So next one between IT risks, IT controls is all the risk decisions. So we are once again reaching back to the business side. So business side have to make risk decisions, but risk decisions are good only if the risk analysis, risk assessment is well done, risk evaluation is prepared for the decision makers. Next one here is ROSI. So if we're talking in IT management, is return on investment. For information security management, we are already discussing return on security investments. So this is another business side approach, how much effort and resources we are able to put into the security side. If the security requirements are high, we have to put more resources to keep the security system up and running. So next integration between IT controls, IT compliance is so that if the controls are implemented and hopefully there are no incidents so far, we can still deal with information security management system operation, which is mentioned here. We can discuss the key performance indicators for security processes. Sure that the controls we have decided to implement actually are there, are operational, and the indicators show that controls are working correctly. Otherwise, it goes back to the risk side. If the control is weak or not working correctly, it may raise another risks. IT compliance, IT incidents, next, more practical integrations, maybe for example testing. So once again, we are in really proactive approach. So we don't have to wait until the real incidents are happening. So we are already proactively able to deal with testing, forensics, audit, for example. One necessary part in management system is the internal audit. So let's use audit as a tool to make the information security inside the organization better. So this is the possibility, and before the real incidents are there, we are able to seek the possibilities to improve the security system. Then it goes to the incident side. If the incidents are happening and if they are not able to solve the incidents as quickly as necessary, then we have to prepare some business continuity plans, disaster recovery planning. So in many cases, the business continuity is more business side term, disaster recovery is more IT related term. So let's use them in cooperation inside one common integrated management system. And definitely one part of business continuity plans is some concrete disaster recovery plans for example, critical IT systems. This is the approach here. We are discussing business terms like RTO, recovery time objective, recovery point objective. So definitely the integrations are there. So business side is actually saying to the continuity how quickly the systems has to be recovered and the business process is restored. So this is basically the agreement between the IT side and continuity management. So if you have already understanding that there are some common profiles in most organizations, somehow we are dealing with them. Now we went through the integration part. So many methods and possibilities are there how to practically do it. So we assume that profiles are there and profiles are integrated. And then it's good approach that let's add into the concept also the necessary roles. So it's definitely true that not only one person is able to cover all those profiles and deal with the integration. So we need different people to carry on different tasks. So roles are appearing to the left side. It's good to start with the management side. So every management system based on ISO or other approach starts that business side have to be leading the development, implementation of management systems. So let's try to give the business side all the time with us. So let's discuss with the CEO why this is needed, what are the regulations, what are the expectations, and then we are getting the necessary support to actually carry on the activities. So next one, if we are proceeding with the profile side, so data handling is done by Chief Information Officer, CEO. It's quite common approach. Then it goes to the more IT side. So let's once again make difference on data, information management, and more technical IT management. And then it may be covered with the role of Chief Technology Officer, CTO. He's taking care of IT and IT governance. This is CTO responsibility. Then we may reach some risk management. It may be a separate IT risk manager or information security risk manager. But definitely, idea is that somebody is taking care of risk side. And this risk manager is actually really good position between these more IT persons and security person. So we are improving more and more this integration by covering the necessary roles. So it's quite common that next one for the information security or cybersecurity or IT controls is associated with a Chief Information Security Officer. In some cases, it may be Chief Cybersecurity Officer. But whatever the role exactly is the building block in our concept that somebody has to take care of this role. So next one may be, for example, CISA. It more relies to the auditing side, Chief Information Security Auditor, but it may be also some more technical level testing person, for example, in bigger organization, that penetration testing is happening all the time when necessary. Different approaches, but if you are in management system side, so let's say that somebody has to look what the Chief Information Security Officer is actually doing, and internal audit may be appropriate here. And when it goes to the business continuity, many cases there is some separate persons who are preparing the business continuity plans or writing down the IT disaster recovery plans. It may be another role here, and definitely if the organization is active in critical infrastructure side, then the business continuity issues may be really relevant. Also the regulations and laws may be there, and somebody has to take care that all the preparations to run business continuously is actually done. So the next development side of our concept may be that this is obligatory, but this is definitely a good possibility to rely on standardized approaches. And this is only showing here that all the necessary standards to cover actually this concept are available, starting with the quality management standards, ISO 9000. It goes more to the business side. Then we are reaching more these data handling standards, which we covered with another standard. We are able to reach ISO 20000, which is service management system. It may be really appropriate to deal with IT governance or IT management issues. So if we have some standardized management system there, it's much more easy to relate with risk and security side. And in this ISO 20000, there are different terms are used for the service management, but the overall terminology is standardized. And the full system is much more understandable for everyone. Then for the risk side, it's possible to rely on ISO 27005 standard. This is the framework to deal with risk management. And then it goes to the IT control. So we can rely on 27001, which is the information security management system. But we are able to use the controls, it's 114 controls described in ISO 27002 standard. If our IT systems are mostly in cyberspace, we can rely on ISO 27032 cybersecurity standard. So those standards and best practices are there to actually support the building the profiles and keep the processes up and running. So for the compliance side, we can rely on auditing standards. For the incident management side, we can rely on 27035. It's dedicated to the information security incident management, how to build solid incident management system. And the last one, another management system standard, maybe for continuity, 22301, which is dealing with business continuity. So pretty much the full concept is covered with international standards, even if it is management system standard or best practices, the possibilities are available. So next one, before we are reaching some concrete examples, is that the overall goal still is to reach the well-running processes for business side, but also information management. IT process is running smoothly, so IT systems are not down or not slow, give the right data, right time. Is pretty much the IT process is running smoothly. Then it goes the IT risk analysis, but also communication as a process, because the new threats are available, especially in cyberspace. There are constant changes in regulations and laws. So the IT risk analysis communication have to be as a process also. Then it goes information security and auditing. This is the process approach also. So basically it means that the controls have to be implemented and operating over the time, and if the improvements are needed, then it goes to the improvement of existing controls. So all those profiles are not static, but they are changing all the time, so let's rely on processes. The same goes to the incident management. If you have already some experience how the process works, we are able to make improvements, which is one part of ISO-based management system also. And business continuity, at the same time, not so that we prepared some business continuity plan 10 years ago, it doesn't work. So you have to test the business continuity plan. So to get the confidence that if the incidents are there, you are able to recover your IT and business processes. And then we are able to just conclude with a concept, but who is dealing with security requirements, more at owner, partner, contractor, regulator. If they're using some 27000 based terms and approaches, it may be more understandable for the real implementers and controllers. And then it goes that if the system is well established and processes are developed, then only the specialist administrator, project management are actually doing the right things to keep the system up and running and ensure that information security goals are actually met. So this is pretty much the concept I wanted to show. So it's possible to see screen also that so the concept is completed on that way. Now we don't have much time more, but just to show some examples how the quite same approach is put it into international laws and regulations also. So the first one, really practical, all the time under discussion, at least based on my experiences, is how much GDPR requires for security. And then it's possible already see that if we are taking the reference as requirements for GDPR, we can rely on description that risk management has to be there, IT security has to be there. So I just put it in bold to show that already if you are going back, so IT risks and IT controls are a necessary part in GDPR implementation. So the same risk management, IT security has to be there. Yeah, and really tricky here is to implement appropriate technical and organizational measures. And this is what I'm saying, that if your management system, information security management system works well, then you are able to proceed what are the appropriate technical and organizational measures. Yeah, and another approach here that if there is the question about how to build up the IT security, then it's possible to rely on, for example, ISO standard. This is suitable to deal with GDPR, but besides of GDPR, we are not only protecting personal data, but other data also. So the information security has to be broader than only for GDPR. But if done correctly, we can use the working management system integrated approach to comply with GDPR main requirements. So another good example is NIST directive. This is also a European approach. There are some examples or tips of implementation the directive. So it starts from the compliance side. So if you are going back, I'm going back. You can see that IT compliance is already in our concept. So implement information security controls, but in more detail, cyber resilience program. So for the NIST directive, it may be a good approach to deal with information security and cyber security inside the same management system. But also business continuity, incident response, all the main parts in our concept also. There is once again the reference to the standards, they may be used. It's not obligatory, but it's good opportunity. So the next one may be taken from United States NIST cybersecurity framework. So we can seek the same evidence here. So risk management is for identification. Appropriate safeguards is in protection side. In our case, the security controls. Then it goes to the cybersecurity events. This is more related with the monitoring. Then it goes to response. It's more connected with the incident management. Then it goes to the recovery. It is part of the business continuity. So pretty much the concept covers the NIST cybersecurity framework also, because the approach here is quite the same. The last one before we are reaching the questions is actually my own personal experience in auditing side. It happened, I think, some half year ago, and there is obligation for me to audit the small organization here in Estonia, which has to comply with Monetary Authority of Singapore technology risk management guidelines. It was quite interesting project even for me, and this is just to highlight what is the concept of these guidelines. And once again, there is really clearly to see that you have to deal with the risk side. That's the first one. Risk management, also deal with outsourcing risk, but also acquisition, IT service management, which was in our concept covered with ISO 20000 standard. So the reliability, availability, recoverability has to be there. And security management and data centers and controls and access control, online services, and ending up with IT audit. So really interesting project for me, but gives a really good understanding that integrated management system actually has to be there if we are going to the tightly or more strongly regulated business areas. So interesting reference just to put here. If you are more interested what is put it into these guidelines, put the same name into Google and it's possible to find. This is publicly available and possible to reference what are the security expectations from regulator side. So, but going back to the PCB side and actually concluding with the presentation, is that my cooperation with PCB is now some 3 years, and when the time goes more and more, I get the necessary support from PCB, which is international certification body. So it's possible to really easy to set up training courses, certification training courses, to go through the standardized approaches, and using this knowledge and experience in your organization, and then maybe even reach back and after half a year or 1 year reach back to the auditing side. It's possible to go through the formal certification audit in cooperation with PCB, and then get more confidence that management systems and also the integrated management systems actually work. So there are different courses provided by PCB. So at least all the ISO standards mentioned in this concept are covered by PCB. So, and also some other activities from PCB to show that this is really good possibility. And once again, this is the possibility to use to cover your profiles with standardized approaches.
Yes.
So thank you from my side. If any questions, I am happy to hear them.
Thank you, Andro, once again for delivering this very informative webinar, and especially this latest case study that you mentioned from your country. I want to inform you that PCB provides training and certification courses besides other ISO standards on ISO 9001 Quality Management, Introduction, Foundation, Lead Implementer, Lead Auditor, as well as the Transition course. A PCB certificate in quality management courses will show your dedication in implementing and managing different organizational frameworks, and most importantly, you will have the chance to be recognized worldwide and be part of a worldwide recognized network. Also, can you go to the next slide, Andrew?
Next slide.
Yes.
This is the last one.
Yes, so we are also happy to announce that PCB will soon launch its newest platform, an online store called the PCB Store. The PCB Store will offer standards, toolkits, and other various supporting materials and products. This platform will enable visitors to get fast and secure access to many exclusive items from anywhere in the world. For more information related to the e-store, please visit the link below. Now we'll go ahead and take some time to answer some of the questions from the attendees regarding today's very interesting topic. So the first question is, what are some of the most frequent complications in dealing with cyber laws and their integration? And also how we can fix them?
Okay. From my experiences, the problem already starts there that if there is no clear understanding what the standardized approach or management system actually is, the people feeling that implementing the standardized approach is the ton of documentation and paper. This is the first thing what happens there. So it seems that if we are going to more standardized way, we have to give a lot of documentation. And how to overcome is definitely go to the trainings and let's discuss 1 week how to actually a management system has to be built, and also let's clarify that documentation is only small part of the management system. And definitely I see that if the documentation is not the biggest problem, I think the communication between different roles is one big obstacle, especially in cybersecurity. Even if something really technical things or incidents in cyber side are happening, so the technical persons are not going to reach to management people are not reaching the business side to get the necessary decisions. So I think improvement in communication is definitely one way to make things better.
Thank you, Andrew. Next question. Does implementing an ISMS with ISO 27001 as one of the standards and leading standards automatically cover the requirements of GDPR, or should we do more?
Definitely 27001 ISO standard will not cover the full GDPR, but I am all the time saying that if you have good information security management system based on 27001, you have covered big part of this GDPR, which relates with risk management and implementing appropriate controls. You only have to take care that your information security management system covers also the personal data. And then you are halfway, I can say. But GDPR is definitely broader for personal data protecting, but good information security management system helps much.
Thank you, Andrew. Now, to conclude the presentation, the last question for today's session. Regarding data handling requirements, is it based on risk assessment or BIA output?
This data handling is more dealt with well, I can say that requirements for the data handling has to start from a business side. So my opinion is that this business impact analysis may be the first one, and then it goes to the risk side.
Thank you, Andrew, once again for this very informative session, and I would like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. Also, please be informed that this session will be recorded and posted on our website as well as on our YouTube channel, along with the slides of the presentation, which you will have access to. For more information about our webinars or our upcoming PCB Insights conference, please visit our website, www.pecb.com. Thank you all once again, and have a great day.